Okay, all set, Ananda.
Thank you so much, Barb. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm really excited to be with a lot of our students. It's always a pleasure. I want to just take a moment to reintroduce myself, and we're going to get into some of the logistics with one of our first meeting agenda items, and then we'll get to do a little bit more of introduction. I'm Ananda. My pronouns are she, they, identify as a multiracial Latinx woman, and I'm the current treasurer of the Madison School Board. I got one more week to go on my formal political role. I'm excited to be, closing that circle, sunsetting that circle, but also really proud, excited, and honored to be with all of you in this new body of work. Not new, but this renewed body of work, in particular when the conversations around creating and co-creating a vision for our students. I'm gonna pass to Barb to give us a little bit of the logistics. Some of this is repetitive from our last time together, but it's extremely important that we deeply understand some of those protocols that Barb is gonna share with us. And I know that there's a couple of folks that are gonna be joining us a little bit later. Barb, I'll pass it to you for the public meeting protocols, and then we'll go to introductions.
Okay, thank you. I'm just showing you the board doc screen right now, and I'm hoping that everybody was able to get a chance to try to get into board docs to see the agenda and the materials. If you had any issues with that, I can help you with that after the meeting. You can always email or call me. So a little bit about public meeting protocol. The people who are the voting members of this group, which includes the core group, and also those alternate youth members who will sit in for youth people who are not able to attend a meeting, they also have voting rights. Voting rights in a group like this, this meeting is an extension of the Board of Education. It was created by them. The members were recommended by them and members of Student Senate. So there are certain rules and protocols that you must abide by as a member of a public committee. So in that case, I did put some materials in board docs for you. One of them is an introduction to Robert's Rules of Order. That's just something that you can take a look at in your spare time. We do use it a little bit. We don't get into it very heavily, but just as an example, when the chairperson calls the meeting to order, that's actually an action item. When you close a meeting and you make a motion to adjourn, that is an action item. When you approve minutes, that is an action item. So those kinds of things would follow under, parliamentary procedure. When we get to the very end, when recommendations are being created, we'll probably use that a little bit more, but until then, I think it stays pretty basic. For the Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, there's a summary in your materials. I'm looking at it right now. The basics that I want to let you know about are that anything that you're doing with this committee is considered a public it's considered a public entity. And in that case, that means that you cannot meet or conduct any business about this committee unless you are at a board meeting. Things that are included in that are emails and text messages and anything else that can be requested as a part of an open meetings request. You are subject to those rules and guidelines. So please take a moment when you can to look at this summary that I've provided, but we just need to let you know that, yes, you are an extension of the Board of Education. When there is anything close to a majority of you in a group somewhere, and you're taking up this business, those meetings have to be noticed publicly, and there's a procedure that we go through at the school district every week to make sure that legal notice is prompt and it's out there for the public to see. All of the agenda items are published, the time and the place and how to access it. The way that we are accessible right now with the virtual meeting is through YouTube. So we are broadcasting live right now on YouTube. These meetings are all recorded so that people can come back and review them from whenever they want. There are also, everything is kept in board docs, materials, and everything that goes with the meeting is in this one spot for people to go to. So the easiest thing to remember is not really to conduct any of this business outside of this meeting. So that's the simplest way to stay out of trouble with regard to the open meetings law. I can take any questions that you might have around that, but you will be getting a number of emails from me regarding logistics for these meetings. Please do not reply all to any emails that come your way. It's just really a one-way communication meant to clarify what is going on. You can contact me at any time. You can also contact Ananda as the co-chair and Gordon as the co-chair at any time. But yes, a majority of you, because there are 13 of you, that means that 6 of you or 7 of you in a group is the majority, and you can conduct business that way. So those are the main things to remember. I think that's all I have on that, Ananda.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barb. I just wanted to let you all know that this is a lot for anyone, and this is a learning opportunity for all of us. And if you have any questions, you can always ask Barb or myself when you're in doubt. And that doesn't mean that you all don't get to be friends. So I know that, many of us hang out outside of this Zoom space. So, if you're in a social interaction, that's totally fine. It's only when we're talking about things about the committee as pertains to safety and wellness that we have to pay attention. I wanted to just highlight what Barb mentioned regarding to the communication. If anybody asks you to comment or your opinion or what's going to happen in regards to the committee, I would encourage you to reach out to Barb just to make sure to clarify that you're not stepping, out of line or anything like that. I wanted to also let you all know, and in case that did not come really clear, but this is the first time that the Madison School District has this really sharp intention around having this hybrid group of adults and young people. And this is the most voting power that students had in the history of our district. Am I correct, Barb, in what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that means that we have a different level of expectation, and that means also that is a great opportunity for all of us. If you needed to reach us to check in or any questions, like, be happy to meet with any of you. I wanted to see if there's any other questions or comments before we move into formal introductions, and then I'll pass it to my co-chair, Gordon. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll pass it to you, Gordon.
Thank you, Ananda. Hey, everyone, I'm Gordon Allen. So for introductions today, I was thinking we could all go around and state our name, pronouns, and your role. Also, if you are a student, what grade you are in and what school you go to. So I can start it off. I'm Gordon Allen, Madison East. I'm a senior there. And for this committee, I will be serving as the co-chair. I will pass it on to let's go with Mia.
Hi, I'm Mia. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a student at Memorial. I'm a junior there. And then my role in this committee is a student core group member. And I'm going to pass it to Mari.
Mari, can you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry about that. My name is Mari Hansen. I use she, her pronouns. I am the co-liaison for the Youth and Family Stakeholder Group. And I'm going to toss it to Ruben.
Thanks. I'm Ruben Sanod. I use he, him pronouns. And I think that I'm one of the members representing the city here. So thanks for having me. And I will pass it over to Maya.
Sorry, my puppy is barking. My name is Maya Pearson, and I'm with the Board of Education. And my pronouns are she, hers, and goddess. And I will pass it off to Dr. Hicks.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Angie Hicks, and I'm the Associate Superintendent of Secondary Schools of Middle Schools. Oh, I forgot my pronouns. She, her, and hers. And I am going to pass it off to Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rebecca Ramirez. My pronouns are she, her, Aya. And I believe I'm on the core body, and I am employed by MMSD. And I will pass it to Megan.
Hi, my name is Megan Fernando. I'm a student at West and I'm in 9th grade. And I believe I'm part of the core group for students. I'll pass it to Cece.
Hi, my name is Cece Schneider. I use she, her pronouns. I go to Memorial. I'm in 9th grade and I'm a student member on the core team. I will pass it to Sabrina.
Hey there, I am Sabrina Madison. I'm the founder and director over at the Progress Center for Black Women. I believe I am co-chairing or co-leading a group with Dana, who doesn't look like she's here tonight, at least as far as how many pages I can slide over. Did we hear from, is it Lavinia?
Yeah, it's Lavinia. Hi, I'm Lavinia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a sophomore at Memorial, and I am a core group member. I'll pass it on to Johanna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Johanna. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a junior that attends La Follette High School, and I am a student core group member. And who hasn't gone yet? Rudy?
Thanks, y'all. Good evening. He, him, his, Rudy Bankston. I'm currently going to pick up a friend, so I'm driving, so I don't want to have my camera on while doing that, but good to hear some of you. And I'm here right now until someone tells me some other things. So good to hear all of you and looking forward to seeing and building with you all.
Thank you, Ruben. Maddie?
My name is Maddie Reese, founder of Connecting the Dots, treasurer of Mantown Mamas, and I'm just looking forward to make changes for our community.
Liz?
Hey everyone, so I'm not a voting policy making member, but I'm here on behalf of the communications department at MMSD. I'm the public information officer. I use she or they pronouns. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to be here as a core committee meetings. And just quickly, just a little bit of a background of where I'm coming from. Among the teams I serve on are the district safety team, the district critical response team. And so I specialize in like crisis communication and safety communication. So that's why I've been the communications person to be tapped for the person to attend these meetings. Thanks.
Thank you, Liz, for that. And thank you all for introducing yourselves. So now we will be transitioning to like framing what stakeholder groups will look like. Ananda, do you want to take the lead on that?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this, Gordon, because you and I have done a lot of thinking and a lot of conversations. And also, this is a little bit of a different structure. So let's talk about what's the structure that we know first. The structure that we know is that we invite folks to a committee. The committee meets several times and then comes up with recommendations. And those recommendations go to the board. That's kind of usually our go-to, and this is what we know. This is some of us, many of us, I think, participated in similar committees. What Gordon and I are proposing to this group is something a little bit different, and wanted to hear from you all what you think and recommendations, and how do you see that becoming actualized. So the first part of the structure is the core group, and we talked a little bit about that in our last meeting. So folks that have voting rights and also are attached to a system that is going to do a thing, right? That's actually gonna, actualize the sentiments of this committee. And that's why we wanted to make sure that city was involved, the county was involved, and we wanted to make sure that there was a balance, a really good balance of young people having voting rights in order for us to be in alignment to the vision of this group. In addition to we are kindly calling the core team, we want a composition of this team to also have folks that we're calling liaisons to stakeholder groups. And this is to disrupt this conversation around, you go in and you do the listening the way, in however way you think that you want, that you wanted to structure, and then you come back and then you do the thing. Instead, the liaisons are part of this conversations, and they're going to help us figure out how we're going to host those meetings with other members from different stakeholder groups. The other piece that was really important, and we had talked, and I know I talked to some of you around this. Hi, Dana, thank you for being here. Was that we heard some feedback that, for example, when there were folks from the county having conversations, or folks from the city having conversations, they were having these conversations around system, or even folks from the district. It was very jargony and very, specific to their agenda. That's a different tone and a different language even to use when we're talking to young people and to parents. And that's a very different tone to when we're having a conversations with mental health professionals, for example, or elected officials. So Gordon and I wanted to host those spaces dedicated with folks that are also having this shared language and having this conversation with them, bringing this conversation with them with a couple of purposes. One, which is the umbrella of this entire committee, which is this co-creation of a vision of safety and wellness for our young people. And the second one, very action-oriented, to have the recommendations that could be policy recommendations, practice recommendations, or budgetary recommendations that have a financial attachment to it. So I wanted to pass you, Gordon, to see what else am I missing, and if there's anything else from the vision that you wanted to highlight, and we wanted to open for any additional comments or any questions.
Yeah, Ananda, I think you covered pretty much all of it. And you did so very well. So thank you for that. I would just say that, with these stakeholder groups, we essentially just want to make sure that we are really taking advantage of these groups, right? These are people who, have experience in their own fields when we go to them for input. So use these stakeholder groups to get input, to test things to see how the community will respond to it. And even as a way, as a means to, get more advisory on things, because I'm sure that a lot of people in these stakeholder groups would love to do that. I mean, that's why they wants to be part of this conversation. So I think, it's important that we meet with these stakeholder groups, like whether that's virtually or if we just come to them in person. I do know we could probably do some visits to certain locations. And even with some of the youth out there, you can always go to your peers too and ask them. And, just to open the conversation about this, have that conversation. But most importantly, we need to ensure that what we're hearing, we're actually taking it into consideration. And we actually are, hearing these people. We need to, make sure that we follow through on it and develop some sort of implementation plan of what is being given to us. Because I know personally for me, when I ask students standing up, about what do they want to see this committee work on, we got a whole lot of input. And with that input, I'm planning to, work with you all to see like, how can we address some of these needs? So it's important to, listen and to follow through on that. We don't want to leave people hanging and yeah. Ananda, is there anything else that you want to touch on?
No, I want to open up for folks. It's specifically, maybe we should start with the stakeholder folks. You all have been picked because of your role in the community and because of your demonstrated work in the community. What are you all thinking about as we're thinking about convening folks in your specific stakeholder arena? How are you envisioning this, and are there any questions or gaps of understanding that we needed to clarify? So Sabrina and Dana, I wanted to pass to you all first.
I guess for me, hey Dana, congratulations, Supervisor. For me, I'm always, I'm not gonna lie, committee meetings or an abundance of committee meetings tend to kill a whole lot of movement and work. So it's, what's not necessarily the quickest way to the end goal, but I tend to think about things from the end. Like at the end of this, what do we want? Like, what is our vision for what things will look like after the fact, and starting from there. I know, because we can't necessarily have meetings outside of this group, I do think it's necessary for us to have some sort of scheduled group or a scheduled meeting away from the larger group, just to be able to have these more one or small group discussions and have, and sort of start setting some tasks or work without necessarily the whole group having to be a part of that, and maybe bringing it back to this group. I don't know.
Thank you. Can I clarify that for a moment, Ananda? Do you mind? Yeah. Okay, so very good that you brought that up. So the people who are on the stakeholder groups are not voting members of the core. Therefore, they can meet and they can have a whole lot more flexibility. So the stakeholder groups are very free to do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's really intentional, Sabrina, for exactly the reasons that you just described.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, then Dana and I know how to find each other. So yes.
Yes. And I guess for me, what I want to know is what things do you want us specifically working on? So you are the core group. So you all are setting the priorities. It is a very big priority of safety and student wellness. Are we first starting with information gathering? Are we starting with surveys? What is our start point? And then I'm with Sabrina, where is it that we are looking to end up? I work well with processes. So I just kind of want to know where we're at in the process, what happens next, and where do we want us to end?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we can help and support in the ways that the committee best needs from us as stakeholders. We can give advice, we can do groups. Sabrina and I have been able to do that. So that's all I have.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's why you both have been nominated for this really critical role as stakeholders of partners. And I want to pass to the group to see if there's any specific recommendations to that, but there is a lot of the thinking, and Gordon, unless, there is something really specific that you were thinking, but there was, intentionally flexibility for you all to think about what could that look like. And in particular to address and motivate and hear. And I know part of our agenda item is going to be communication, so I don't want to preview that too much, but in your own gathering of folks, what are some of the ways in which you all are going to do this? So specifically to your question, Dana, we are sort of the pre-structuring of how we're harvesting this co-creation of this vision for wellness and safety. Gordon, anything else would you add, Gordon, to that?
Yeah, I would just say one, I would just trying to, gather a vision. And then from that vision, we would start to develop implementation. So to directly answer your question, Dana, I would just say we kind of first want to see what do people vision around, what does it mean to them for our schools to incorporate safety and wellness for students, And then when we come back and meet, we can decide on how will we, create that vision, how will we put that vision into reality? Because I think it's so important that we hear from the people, what do they expect to see or how do they vision these things, so that we are able to best, support their ideal when it comes to such an important issue as this. But I do think we want to heavily focus on implementation. I think that is something that we said from the beginning. We don't want to just, brainstorm all the time or, just say, just all these listening things. We kind of do want to start, go straight head on meeting demands and setting concrete deadlines and implementation strategies and the like. But I think for now, since we are still in our beginning phases, it's still important that we create a solidified vision. And then from that's when we can really move on to the critical stages of this committee. And that to me is implementation.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. Anyone else wanted to chime in? And I wanted to, oh yes, Mari. I was going to pass it to you and Maddie, so perfect.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to point out that I think it's really important we get input from people at every single school in the district. I think it's great that we have student reps from all the high schools, but I think the 3 levels of schools have very different needs in terms of safety and wellness, and even based on geographic area, the safety and wellness needs are different at all the schools. So I think it's really important that we have some sort of connection to every single school. That's all I wanted to add.
No, it's really important. And so Mari, as the liaison, as one of the co-liaisons, what is your recommendation? What's your thinking?
Well, I think we need to think about the best platform. Do we start by talking to the principal at every school? Do we start by talking to the head of the PTO or equivalent? I'm open to other ideas as well. I think those are important things to flesh out, but every school should have somebody who I think could contribute quite a bit to our discussion. So exactly what that looks like, I don't know yet, but.
I love when we don't know to do something. That means that we're doing something different. This is the second time I said this today, so I'm really excited to say that for the second time. Leaning into this unknown, I believe, my opinion is that we can really crack into something different for our district. So thank you so much, Mari. And then Maddie, I know you are driving, so I want to check in with you to see what are some of your early thinkings around making sure that we have a voice of parents in our district, guardians in our district, as well as young people.
Can you hear me, Ananda?
Yes, we can.
So of course, you know, I'm kind of boots on the ground with a lot of parents with children in our district. So I was just kind of wondering, like, how are we geographically basing what we're doing? Are we going into schools? Are we talking to children? Like they said, are we going to do any surveys, asking what their most, you know, the most need that they're, you know, the barriers that they have right now? So I'm just kind of wondering, how are we going to approach it? And like they said, and what is the intake?
Yeah, great question, Maddie. So I'm gonna actually put a pin on all the questions around communication and survey because Liz is here and we're gonna have an agenda item to talk more about that. But what I will say to actually the 101 is however, you know, we decide. So, you know, the preliminary thinkings of Gordon and I, and when we started talking about was to actually, as Gordon mentioned earlier, is to, you know, go to the schools and be, you know, meet with the students and meet with the parents and go, you know, go to the PTOs, go to the Padres Latinos, you know, meetings and go to the student club meetings, right? To really, you know, engage with folks this, you know, in this conversation. So it could be, and I think we have a great opportunity to have this sort of multiple approaches. And I think that some of you, and I'm looking at you, Sabrina, specifically, that talked about how do we actually reach out to the people that we often don't hear from. Anything else? Any other comment? Okay. So I know, Rudy, that you are driving, and you and Julian, who I think Julian is not coming, right?
He's supposed to be here at 10 minutes.
Okay, so he's gonna come pretty soon. But Rudy, do you have any thoughts on or any questions on this specific outreach to professionals that are related to this conversation around safety and wellness, as well as elected officials?
Not really any questions, but I do appreciate being broad with in terms of who we connect with, and also being intentional about connecting with the most the students and families who are most marginalized in the community, and really starting there and centering their voices in the process, I think would be important. And you alluded to that. So beyond that, nope, I'm just listening and driving.
Thank you so much, Rudy. And then the two folks that are going to be informing us from a teacher faculty perspective, one is Jessica Hutz, who is a East High School social studies teacher, and Michael Jones, who is the MTI representative, and neither of them were not able to make it today, but I know that they are super excited to be part of this group. I want to begin closing up this agenda item, and I wanted to see, before I move to the next one, which is really related to this conversation, to see if there's any other questions or thoughts.
Ananda, I wonder if it would help to explain, I mean, for the general public, a little bit about the structure again, just a bit. That we start out with the core group of 13 voting members, that we have 7 liaisons of the stakeholder groups. We have 4 stakeholder groups, one called community partners and advocates, that those have a liaisons, Sabrina Madison and Dana Pelabon. The next is youth and families, and the liaisons for that are Maddie Reese and Mari Zorb Hansen. We also have a stakeholder group of MMSD school staff, and you already mentioned Jessica Holtz, who would be the liaison for that, as well as Michael Jones, who is on the core. and the related professional and elected officials stakeholder group with Rudy Bankston and Julian Walters as the liaisons. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew the kinds of areas that the stakeholder groups were to focus on.
Thank you so much, Barb, for that additional framing, and also for modeling for us that if there are parts of the conversation that's missing, or if people have clarifications, Barb is the voice of God that will just turn her mic on and will get us in shape. So you all see how she operates. So thank you so much, Barb.
Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you. I want to get us moving, Gordon, to the communications, because I'm so excited. So Liz, I'm going to pass it to you. And if you can, talk a little bit about how are you envisioning this partnership? And so much of this is sort of this co-creation of what that looks like. So folks bringing, what they're thinking, what their recommendations into this role. So, and then I know you have some really exciting updates for us.
Thanks, Ananda. I don't know if it's like super exciting, but yes, for sure. So my role will be in this committee to be taking the information that I'm gleaning from the committee and the work, and producing that to provide updates to the community, to our families, to our staff, to our stakeholders. And so if you want, I can just try to share my screen for a sec, just to show you the website that Jody and Barb have worked really hard to let's see here, make available. Let's see, share screen. Okay, so
can you share, Liz?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sorry, it just took me a sec. Yep, so Safety and Student Wellness Ad Hoc Committee, hopefully you can all see that. So this is kind of a summary of what the committee is about. The mission and charge, the draft plans, guiding questions, membership and meeting frequency, ad hoc core committee membership. We've got voting members here, stakeholder liaisons, and supporting staff, and student alternates. And so we also have a place for folks to submit feedback through our Let's Talk feature on our website. So that right now is our main channel to deliver feedback and receive feedback from. And of course, we have bi-weekly newsletters to our families, bi-weekly newsletters to our staff, regular website updates, social media updates, etc. So every channel we can take advantage of, we will. And we're looking forward to sharing all of these updates and answering people's questions that come through on letstalk.com.
Can you all give me a show of hands? How many of you, or turn your mics on, know what is the Let's Talk?
Great question.
So Maya, I know you know. Gordon, you know. Any of the students? Do you all know what Let's Talk is? Okay. Rebecca, do you know? No? Dana, Sabrina? Maddie?
No, I don't think I know.
Okay, Mari. And then Maddie, any folks from the phone? Do you all know what's Let's Talk?
I do not.
Okay. Great. This is that opportunity, Liz.
Yeah, and if not, let's just experimentally, if you had a feedback or a question about the safety ad hoc committee, what would you do? Where would you go? I'm interested in that.
No, actually, Liz, I was hoping that you actually talk about what is the Let's Talk.
Oh,
what is that?
Yeah, so Let's Talk is a feature of our website that was implemented, I don't know, maybe like 6-ish months ago. So it's an app where you go to the MMSD website or any school website, and you see a little dialog box on the bottom, usually right of the page, and it's called Let's Talk. And you can type in a question. You can choose what the topic that your question is about. Let's say it's safety ad hoc committee, and then you type in your question, and then that gets flagged to folks who are able to answer you.
So if you all go to the MMSD website, the Madison School District website right now, there is a little red button. It's almost like, when you go to, it's like the customer service, kind of like sometimes it pops up on a website. So that's,
Can Liz share her screen and just show us it right
yeah,
now?
be lovely.
Yeah, let me try that again. Let's try it. Okay. Oh, am I still sharing my screen? Okay.
And while she's doing that, is this Let's Talk is for anybody?
Yeah, anyone.
Okay.
So here's
Oh,
okay. So like, let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say,
Liz, can you make your screen a little bigger so people can really see?
I'll try. I'm on like a huge screen, so I don't know.
No, it needs to be zoomed into what the menu in there that you're showing us.
Does that help at all?
Yes, that's helping. Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. So let's say just like communications. And then you can say like, I am a parent guardian. I have a concern. Subject. It's not allowing me for some reason to. Okay. Just like test. And then your message. Test. And then you enter your name. Just gonna go with what they suggested. I guess you enter your, you enter your complaint, your comment, your suggestion, your concern, etc. You press send, and then depending on the topic, they have different like staff members dedicated to responding to your concerns. So like if you were interested in if you had a mental health question, for example, that wouldn't come to me, that would come to a mental health expert. If you had a question about enrollment, that would come to Fatima in the enrollment department, that wouldn't come to me. So this has been a really value add to our district in that it tracks people's response and can give us analytics in terms of like the response rate and like satisfaction rate of people responding to people's concerns.
And Liz, what is it going to be hours for folks that have specifics to this committee? What do they have? What is it going to look like for us? They open the Let's Talk, and then what do they have to do?
So I need to work with Jody Fiedler on this and Barb, and I think the Let's Talk feature will give an option in terms of like, do you have a concern about the school like safety and wellness ad hoc committee like meetings, and if so, then most likely I will receive that email. Barb will receive that email. Maybe Ananda, maybe you and Gordon will receive that as well, and so that will trigger one of us to make sure that we respond to that communication.
Yeah, it's sort of a one-stop shop, Ananda. So anybody that has any concern about anything about this committee will then go here and we'll be able to collect all of that and take it from there and either respond or bring it back to the committee. It depends on what the situation is. So we will triage it and then take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Barb. I think one thing that is coming up for me as, we did this quick sort of survey of who knows about the Let's Talk is that we need to do a better job of making sure that, folks know that we have this tool, because I know you are very engaged folks, right? And if you all don't know, I'm sure there is a lot more, a lot of opportunities for us to communicate that we have this tool. Are there any questions about the tool specific? Because I know I wanted Liz to talk a little bit about other ways in which we're thinking about social media. Specifically, I know Sabrina had made some really good recommendations around that, but I wanted to see around this tool, the Let's Talk tool, are there any questions or comments around that? Okay. So part of our responsibility as folks that have been assigned to lead in this work is to make sure that there are multiple ways in which the community can engage with us and can let us know what's coming up for them, concerns, suggestions, recommendations, and whatnot. So the Let's Talk is one way. Liz, can you talk a little bit about what's your early thinkings around social media platform? And the next thing I really wanted to hear from our students, what you all, like, how are you all navigating, all of this conversation? So Liz, I'll pass it to you, and then I would love to hear from students.
Yeah, I certainly would definitely love to hear from students. So like basically our channels as a school district, we've got our website as a district, we've got our school websites, we've got our district social media channels, we've got our school social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, sometimes Twitter, depending on the school. We used to have a podcast. We haven't yet resurrected that, but I mean, those are kind of like our main channels. And I will say the media, like, so we do rely on our media partners in our district, and we have a lot of like positive folks who we rely on to like help tell our stories. And so I don't want to discount that, but those are kind of the main channels that we rely on to get this information out.
Gordon, I'll pass it to you because I know you had a lot of comments also about this conversation, and then if you can pass it to your classmates and to other students, that'll be great.
Yep. I would say, social media is like one of the most efficient ways to get to like the younger generation and to youth. I know the way by going about that will be a little more complex because, like, as you said, Liz, we have the district media channel for that. Also, each schools have their own. Like, I know that's for sure, like for the comprehensive high schools. And so what I'm thinking is we could just use the Madison Schools platform if you want to get like Instagram users or the Facebook users like feedback on certain items. But then you have to ask the question of whether who's the demographic for those channels. Usually it's parents. Maybe it's those who are current students as well. But I think a large number of them are just parents who are following along. So that's why I think it's best to communicate through a lot of various platforms. So the Let's Talk feature is good for the website, so those who land on the portal can just submit a question through there. And I think in terms of we want to get more, so let's like more feedback on like things that we're currently trying to put into motion. I think social media would be the perfect avenue for that. But I think in terms of like mission more so the youth, we may possibly want to work with the youth who are in this committee and the Youth and Family State Group. And that what that could entail is like hosting these, the public forum sessions at the schools, going out to the schools, directly and talking to people, making sure that we get, feedback and stuff recorded. I don't know about surveying. I think that with surveys, sometimes people feel, how surveys are. They're long, sometimes highly repetitive. People are reluctant to take it. So I think why not just take it live, have a live type of service. It's something you got to click through, just actually talk to people about it. And, we can jot it down from there. So, just to sum it all up, I think the Let's Talk feature is good. I like the way it routes things. And I do appreciate the fact that you all took in consideration to have it like directly linked to this committee when they submit it through that subpage, of the board website. And I think going forward, we just need to develop some sort of social media communication plan. And then for the stakeholder groups, we can work within that group to see how we reach out to more of the students directly. And that would just be a lot of logistical work. And I think that is just something that stakeholder can do without the need of the core group. Yeah. So I'm going to say, Olivia, do you have anything to add?
I totally agree with everything you've said. I think using various platforms to get information out to people is probably the most the best way and more efficient, because everyone has different ways of getting their information. Some people use social media. Some people, I'm sure there's a lot of students that like don't even know that schools use social media to like give out information, because it's a lot of times it's like the parents that follow the accounts, like Gordon said. I think personally, I depend on email for my information, because I feel like there's just like a lot more information that way. You can get more information out. But you know, that's different for everyone. So I think also Gordon was talking about like going to schools, and I think that's really important, like reaching out to people first rather than hoping that they like just find the information that we're putting out there is also really important. But yeah.
I felt like I get this. I get it. Yeah.
Hi, Maddie. I don't know if Maddie?
I'm still here, Nanda.
Oh, were you going to chime in? Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think Maddie clicked off by accident. Sabrina, you had a question?
Yes. So it's really just getting back to like, it's the Safety and Wellness Committee. I can imagine why it was kicked off, what's happening in the schools from what I've experienced, witnessed, and said in meetings about. So I'm just really wanting to continue to go back to ensuring that we're including families and kids who are, most affected by a safety and wellness plan, and who might have been they're at the foundation of why this exists, for example. And so I'm going to guess that those kids are not on this call from hearing your participation in school and activities and how y'all are shining and flourishing. So in my mind, like, I'm just like, can we get over to the juvenile center? Can we hear from folks who are working with kids in the juvenile spaces? So those are my thoughts. Those are just I don't want us to get a whole bunch of feedback from folks who are not actively engaged in activities that have called for a safety and wellness plan. Does that make sense? I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you bring up a perfect point. Ananda, what are you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was going to say we already, Gordon and I are supposed to get a call with Sheriff Barrett to get us scheduled. And once we have some dates, we would love to open to this group, whoever, as long as we're not meeting quorum. And if we are meeting quorum, that Barb knows, Barbie can facilitate us like to actually have a visit if folks wants to, talk to young people. And I love that the call out, Sabrina, to also to talk to adults that are working with young people as well. I'll pass it to you, Gordon.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely want to do that. And I do know we have reached out to a lot of support staff. There's a security assistant at the schools too, as well as different things too, because those are the people who see these things hands-on. And we are also hoping with that connection with those staff members that we will be able to form connection with students who are often affected by, those cases as a way to, get there, like how you said, we need to see what do they vision too, right? So we hoping that through those connections, we can be able to, bridge the connection with those students. But yeah, thank you again, Sabrina, for bringing that up. But we would definitely do that. Dana, I see your hand is up.
So that I'm clear, and I apologize if I'm asking a question that has been answered. So the things that we are asking people, are they the guiding questions? Because we're talking about asking for people's opinions on things. And I'm not necessarily sure what it is that we're asking an opinion on. So is it that we are talking right now about a communication plan to talk to people about the guiding questions? Are we coming up with what it is that we're wanting to talk to people about? Because I feel like, depending on what it is that we're asking, that might change how it is that we have a communication plan for what we're asking, right? So if it's those three questions, I can come up with 15 different ways to reach out to stakeholders and advocates. We can put together plans for each of the things, but I guess I'm looking a little bit more for that framework. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that is a good question. We do want to start with the guiding questions to first build a foundation, and as a way to vision, safety and wellness. Ananda, do you agree with that? Yep. Okay.
I wanted to check because Rudy put his camera on. I wanted to see if he has anything else that he wanted to chime in.
I'm good right now. I just got a driver now, so.
Any other students? CC, do you have something to add?
I agree with everything everyone said already. I know I definitely rely on email a lot more because I don't really use Instagram and just most social media. And most of like the Instagram and Facebook school accounts I know they're mostly used by like parents and not the actual kids. So I feel like direct contact with students and the community would be most effective.
Mm-hmm. Mia?
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said so far. I also think that getting in direct contact with students and even like families and just teachers is really important because again, a lot of students also don't look at the Instagram page. I do, but I may be the only one, who knows. But yeah, like especially just when students are available to talk to any of us or anything like that, just like going to schools, middle schools even, I don't know, like any schools, and just talking to students about what their opinions are, because I know that they have lots of opinions that they want to share with us and with others, but they don't really know how to do that. So like providing that sort of communication would be great, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I wonder, like within the stakeholder groups, for the youth members, a lot of you are part of various clubs at your schools. So possibly, I wonder if you could like work with the leaders within those clubs to like get feedback on these guiding questions as well. As a way to more so build like a direct communication with students. I do know we do have some multicultural service coordinators who will be partaking in stakeholder groups too. And those people are really, integrated within their schools like affinity groups. So we can also use that connection too to directly get feedback from students, especially those from, marginalized backgrounds. Megan, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with everything that's been said. I think in terms of communication, I rely the most on my email, but also kind of conversing with teachers. I rely on their input a lot, and I think it would be significantly better to talk to people in person rather than sending out a Google form or a survey, just because I think it feels more personalized. I think people can feel like they're actually getting their grievances heard. And I think sometimes with the form, it doesn't always feel like that. It can just feel like you're adding to a statistic rather than actually talking to somebody that can help you.
Yeah, perfectly agree. That's an excellent point. Thank you so much, Megan. Yona, do you have something to say?
Honestly, I don't really think so. I think that everybody pointed out some good comments and I agreed with most of them.
Okay. So just like for a quick wrap up from here from the youth here and also from Sabrina too, is to we will go forth with various communication platforms, whether that's a digital one or a in-person one. For the digital one, we're thinking going through mainstream district media channels, and then for the in-person one, going out to each of our respective schools and reaching out to groups within those schools as well as the SCs. And to ensure that we work with behavioral support teams as well as our students who are in the juvenile center and the like. and to ensure that we are, going to the people, as as Olivia said, instead of just expecting them just to come to us. So Liz, I just maybe like someday we could work more so on the logistics of all of this. But yeah, I think this is a good starting point in terms of enhanced communication.
Absolutely, Gordon. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm at East pretty much every day, 1027 H. So if you go in that neighborhood, you'll find me. So yeah, let's touch base.
Oh, that sounds good. I didn't even know that. All right.
Yeah, I'm at East like every day. But not tomorrow. I'm at a conference, but like next Monday at least.
Sounds good. Ananda, should we start the communications question over to other members on the core team, or should we move to another agenda item?
Let's hear from other folks.
Yeah. So Ruben, do you have anything to add in terms of communication?
No, I mean, it's good to hear the feedback about social media and maybe not getting to everybody. That's really valuable that I would not have thought about. And we're also gonna be able to bring in people who are going to be community advocates to speak with us and learn from them on a public platform, which I think will be helpful and spark new conversations. So, I'm excited to see where it goes, and I think we can adjust if we feel like we're not getting feedback in a genuine way. So.
Okay. How about you, Mari?
Yeah, it would seem to me that sort of boots on the ground would work the best if we really want to reach especially marginalized groups who might have access issues. So getting into like the juvenile center, I don't remember who said that, or yeah, if we could, sorry about my dog. And also just related to what Dana said, in terms of like, what exactly do we want to ask? Do we want to leave in kind of an open-ended, like, what are your safety and wellness concerns? Or do we want to, ask even more specific questions to those groups in those spaces, boots on the ground? I don't know, I think might be the most effective.
Yeah, I agree. And just to further clarify, like I think we want to like move forward with the 3 guiding questions that's like in the draft document there towards the bottom. And
I should look at that again. Sorry.
No, you're good. So yes, just those 3 guiding questions is what we're going to first ask these groups. But I definitely agree. Boots on the ground is like what we want. Sabrina, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, y'all are killing me with the marginalized language. So, first, and this is like, I always tell people, don't take nothing personal, but it's just like, okay, Mari says, hey, I don't remember who said it. And then the next word that my brain is hearing is marginalized. And I've just heard marginalized so many times in this conversation. And I think our last conversation. And so I'm not the expert on language, but I just know I never refer to myself as a marginalized Black woman. I have not been invested in to the degree that the larger dominant community has been invested in. So I tend to think about myself from that standpoint. So I don't refer to myself as a minority or as marginalized. I don't really use that kind of language in talking about Black folks, or anyone of color. So I don't know how folks think about language, but I really need for us to find another word because when we start using words like marginalized, our thoughts, like we're creating from that perspective. And I need it's almost 7 o'clock, and my last cup of coffee was at noon, so it's really high on my like being agitated list right now. So this is, again, no disrespect to nobody, because don't take it personal, but know that word is, I'm not a fan, and we really got to come up with another way to describe who we're talking about. I don't part of me is just like, whoever we're talking about, just say that. We're talking about kids getting in trouble, say that. If we're talking about folks who are underserved, not invested in, let's just call it what it is. But I think if we use the word marginalized to describe people we're talking about, then we're going to be creating from a marginalized, like mindset. And that's not, I will have to bow out because that's not my frame of work, so.
I appreciate that. Thank you for keeping it real.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Let me mute myself again because I'm tired.
Thank you, Sabrina. Who is next? Rudy, do you have something to add? Or Board Member Pearson?
I number one, thank you for bringing up. I can't recall who, and I continue to hear, but the young people who are in the juvenile facilities, and I do have regular contact with the adults and the youth in that direction. Just to put that out there in case I can support making those contacts. But the rest of it, for the most part, just really appreciating the deep thought that's being put into making sure everyone is included, even those individuals who are marginalized, not as a adjective to describe them, but just sort of as an umbrella to be able to identify and keep them at the center. Because when you think about time, we have to use language under certain umbrellas and to make sure we don't exclude anyone. So besides that, I'm pretty much in agreement with what's been raised so far.
So that was I again with the Juvenile Center. And maybe this is one of those times where we need to have an off this conversation. But when I'm having conversations, even with the sheriff's office or the juvenile folks or whatever, they very much come from a deficit mindset when they're talking about these kids. And they definitely come from thinking about these kids as marginalized. So how we fund them, how we invest in them, how we even offer programming is very much from a deficit mindset because, hey, these are just some marginalized kids, But I do gotta say, Ananda, and to let me go over a little bit more. Gordon, we definitely need to talk about language at some point. Or again, this just might not be the space for me.
I agree. Language will be of conversation. So yeah, we will make sure to get on the next agenda. Board Member Pearson, do you have something to add?
I think I was just gonna actually wait. I was waiting for my turn, but Sabrina kind of said it. I think thinking of our children in a deficit manner is setting us up for basically perpetrating the same things that have always existed. So I would just be mindful of that. And language does matter when you actually start to attribute actions to that language. I think I'm just good with everything that everyone has said. I think, including parents are always important. Engaging students, I think engaging students from every level. I think down to 4K is super important because a lot of the trajectory of children's education is determined early on before they even get to high school. So if we are able to make sure that we are getting the youngins in there as well as their families, I think is super important. And we also trying to get them to invest also in this as well and have the longevity. So I think that's important. But yeah, I think all the ways in which we can do that are decent, and I don't have anything extra to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca?
I like the grassroots, the really kind of building the information from the grassroots. It's going to take time, and I'm trying to tell myself time spent in process will be delivered in product later. So I just have to kind of reel my desire to kind of, move maybe too quickly, and just remind myself that time spent in process will be given later in a more quality product. And yeah, so I'm interested to see how this evolves.
All right, Dr. Hicks.
I'm like Rebecca. I'm trying to stay in the process to get to the product and not move the process too fast, because we miss, or we miss spots or blind, and they're blind. And I think it's really, really important. I think that I'm not sure if that was you, Gordon, who said it, about making sure that we go out to where the people and that we want to be a part of this process intentionally, and not just, it's hard work, because a lot of trust and a lot of things have been broken. And so if we just tap on the door and no one comes, and when we turn and say, well, they didn't come, then are we really invested? So I just want to make sure that we continue to understand the importance of that, as well as engaging all of stakeholders in the process, especially those who it's typically hard to engage. Well, I shouldn't say, for me, it's not hard for me to engage people, but as a whole.
All right. So yeah, I agree. We want to make sure that we don't move too fast, that we, plan these things and that we think very thoroughly. And I believe we will, especially with the addition to our stakeholder groups. Ananda, do you have something to add?
I was hoping that Maddie also had an opportunity. She's on the phone. Or she was. Maybe I don't see her. She get dropped, Barb.
Yeah, I don't see her in the lineup now, and I don't see anybody in the waiting room.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you everyone for this conversation. I wanted to just to summarize some action steps that I'm getting from this. And I'm also hearing this call to action to like what is tangential and also what's the process, right? What can happen and is visible for us to move towards, and then what is also the process of this group. And this is the first time that we actually are having an opportunity to meet as a full group. I know that there are folks that have not been able to be here tonight, so we're hoping that in the next meeting we'll have closer to 100% of the committee representation. Gordon and I and Barb had done some conversations around how do we want what's Gordon and I's role. And some of the early conversations that we had is that we are going to be doing some folks were talking about boots on the ground or shoes on the ground, whatever. However, I'm with you, Sabrina, around language. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So we'll be happy to share with you all like what is the cadence from Gordon and I, and then from that place we can also talk with the liaisons to have some very specific tasks, right? Like, so what does it look like? And I don't want us to take the time of the committee, because I think Sabrina and Dana are going to be, different than Mari and Maddie, and it's going to be different than the outreach for the faculty, for the teachers, right? And so we can have this, conversations, a little bit more of the conversations, and also hearing what you all are recommending to, what does that look like, that outreach to folks. I think the other thing, so Gordon and I will share the scheduling with you all, which will include the outreach to all the high schools and all the learning centers, which includes the detention center. And then what I also heard is that our students are waiting for our email, right, to talk about both this committee and what is this committee about, who is in this committee, what are our guiding questions, what we wanted to hear from folks, and also to get, the exposure of the Let's Talk as a tool, but also to get exposure to members of this committee. I also heard loud and clear that there's some foundation work around how we're going to talk about our students, right? And how we're going to talk about our families. And I deeply appreciate that. So Sabrina, you and I can kind of offline, I already have some thoughts, and, if that is aligned to what you're thinking, if other folks have other recommendations, love to hear from you all too. And we can start our next meeting with that, because I think that is critically important. I also appreciate the modeling of this group around the resilience to hold dissenting views, and to holding, to hold space for like, hey, let's come back to having a more expansive conversation around how we want to talk about our students, our peers, and our families. And then, so the follow-up with stakeholder liaisons, and the communication to our community regarding the Last Talk, the social media, and the ways in which people can reach out to us. Gordon, am I missing anything in regards to actions follow-up?
Nope, I think you covered all of them.
The next item on this in our agenda was to actually get into beginning the creation of the vision, but I do want, there's some key folks from the core group that are not here, in particular representatives of our staff. So I wanted to table that, and we wanted to have a little bit more time. So I think moving that to our next time together, I think would be great, so we can really talk about language and talk about vision together. The next item is the next meeting date and time. So we were thinking about having this bi-weekly for the purpose of what you mentioned, Rebecca, around the process. How do we create the structures, right? And then get that foundation going, getting to know each other, so we can get into some more of the tangential actions. And so Barb looked it up and make sure that we are in alignment, to make sure that we're not holding the meetings when there's spiritual or religious observance days. So the next date would be April 28th at 5:15. So it'd be great if folks can look at your calendars and see if that works for you all. Barbara will follow up on the email, but that's when we're thinking to host our next meeting, and with the hopes that the majority of you will be able to attend, so we can get into the creation of the vision from you all's perspective. Anyone has anything that they want to, Barb, anything else from your end?
Nope, that's good. Thank you, Ananda.
Anyone has any comments or thoughts? I see y'all, some of you looking at calendars, so I really appreciate that.
So yeah, people can just email me and let me know if that date works. That's all it would take.
Great. Thank you so much, Barb. So expect from Gordon, myself, Liz, or Barb, communications around next date, I think we got some really great agenda items for our next meeting. And also Gordon and I are going to be doing some follow-up with the liaisons to get going on some things and figuring out how we're doing the stakeholder group. And we will work with Liz to have an email draft to our students. I'm gonna just see if there's anything else that we're missing before we adjourn the meeting. All right, hearing none, would like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Yep. Motion to adjourn.
Maya so moved it. Ananda or Sabrina seconded.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion adjourned. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. Looking forward to connecting with you all. See you. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.